different affordability is needed within the city. But I think one of the challenges is that when you talk about families that make well below $50,000, they don't have any options. Your families who are at $80,000, they can choose to live in a city or not to live in a city. They can move further out and find other options, but these families have no options. And as you said, your family has experienced being priced out, but that's an everyday occurrence for so many. And I guess what we're trying to see.
Commissioner, are you still there?
I don't see her on the list. But I guess from while we wait for her to rejoin, I don't see anyone in the waiting room. Did you want to comment on what you heard so far, council member?
Okay, so the private sector, like developers, are not developing housing for people, or much less families that make $50,000 a year or anything less than that. The only way we develop housing for this income bracket is if the city is essentially paying for it. That is what we have to do more of. We're not doing enough of that. So one example is you pointed to, Christopher, a number of formerly public parcels of land that have been developed. One that has not yet been developed, but the contract is just about finalized, is the plot of land on North Capitol Street where the DC Housing Authority currently sits. And they're building a number of affordable units, but not nearly as many as you would expect for such a valuable piece of land. And so where we really have to, I think, make our impact for low income housing is public land that is being developed. Excuse me. But again, the cost of that is going to be substantial. So that's something that we have to continue to fight for more money for in the council. Well, what I've done over the past couple of years, excuse me, I went all the way to the mat, made a lot of people angry last year during the budget debates, trying to increase the amount of money that we use for maintenance and improvement of public housing, but also have been fighting for more money into the Housing Production Trust Fund, because that's the pot of money that we use to develop housing for people making $50,000 a year or less. So that's where I've been fighting to increase the amount of money we fund into the Housing Trust Fund, and I'm sure that's probably in line with where you all are pushing as well. But that is how we get that housing built.
Thank you, Councilmember White.
Can I add one other thing just to clarify a previous point? Because the commissioner mentioned that people making families with making $80,000 a year can find a place to live. The commissioner does have a point, but I would say it's an increasingly small amount of space in the district that you can find if you're a family making $80,000 a year, and a lot of people competing for that space. The thing I want to clarify is that the private sector is not developing housing for families making $80,000 a year either. So that housing also has to be built with Housing Trust Fund dollars. And what we don't want, if we have a family making $50,000 and the daughter goes to college and comes out, making $70,000, we don't want her to not be able to live in this city. So we want people to be able to move up. And I think that's one of the important things. That's why I say we don't want broke people fighting against broke people. We all need to rise together. So I just wanted to clarify that point.
Okay, thank you. Next is Mrs. Pat Bishop.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. The Southwest Navy Yard and others in Ward 6 has already seen similar patterns in Black displacement and gentrification. Yet Councilmember Millicent has said that he will follow the council ward member for the comp plan. Can Black residents expect more of the same? Ward 6 Councilmember Charles Allen has not had a fundamental change in his position on development.
Can you tell me more about your question, Ms. Bishop? I want to make sure I'm answering the appropriate question.
Okay. Southwest Navy Yard and other areas in Washington, D.C. has seen similar patterns in displacement and gentrification. Yet the council member has said that he will follow council ward member on the comprehension plan. Can Black residents expect more of the same?
So I can't speak for Chairman Mendelson, and I want to make sure I give an appropriate answer. Is there so in Southwest? So one of the things I'm struggling with in Southwest, looking at the slide I saw earlier, we have slightly more African American residents in Southwest than we did in 2013, 2014. Is that right, Christopher?
Yeah, that's correct. We've lost in the last 10 years a net 500 African Americans, and the wide population has doubled, more than doubled.
So what we have seen in other parts of the city is a reduction of African Americans in many, if not most, neighborhoods. What I worry about, and this is really what requires a lot of attention. There's no easy answer here. So anybody who tries to sell you an easy answer, I think, is not shooting straight. If we don't build more housing, then we also don't build more middle income housing. What I think we need to figure out as a government is how we force the development of specifically middle income housing, which will come with a heavy and low income housing. That will come with a heavy price tag. And generally the way that the government pays for it is with other market rate units. But that plan has by itself not developed enough middle income and lower income housing. So we have to really crack that nut, but we also have to wrap our heads around the fact that that is going to cost a lot more money. So Ms. Bishop, my guess is that the chairman has said he will defer to ward council members about projects in their ward, but I don't think the chairman is going to defer to any other council members with respect to his position on the comprehensive plan. So I'll just need to get a little bit more clarity on that.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you. Go ahead, Mrs. Bishop.
Yes. My concern is the displacement of the Black people that's right here in Greenleaf, in which our living conditions are like grown folks are living in the same area of young kids. And for the developers to keep getting market rate or middle income and not providing the proper spaces of units to the low income that are in Greenleaf, that's what I keep bringing back to everybody's attention is the unfair treatment.
I see.
Which causes displacement.
Yes.
Along with this gentrification they keep trying to push on us.
Yes.
So
yes.
It's a big problem.
So no, thank you for clarifying. With respect to Greenleaf and the other properties around the city, what I've been pushing for since I've been on the council, including at Greenleaf, is a one-to-one replacement and to make sure we are not displacing our residents. So we do have to update and in many cases rebuild these properties. But for many years, every time the city did that, we displaced residents because the projects took too long, or we didn't build enough units, or we lost track of the residents. And that's wholly unacceptable as far as I'm concerned. So when we do rehabilitate these properties, as residents often need, we have to make sure, one, we build one-for-one replacement, but also that we build multi-bedroom units because that's something that also causes displacement. If I have a 3-bedroom unit to fit my family and you replace it with a 1-bedroom, well, that's that you have displaced my family. And so I encourage people to pay attention, not just to the number of units, but also to the number of bedrooms.
Okay, thank you, council member. The next question, let me get in Mrs. Linda Brown.
Councilman
Good afternoon.
Linda Brown, and I am a native Washingtonian as well. And so my concern is that we are having this discussion about equity in our nationwide. And so as we just spoke about the displacement of Black people, I'm wondering, how do we fit in, or how do we frame the conversation about equity for us? Because we're the ones who are being displaced. And so this has happened years. As we talk about doing and rebuilding, there is nowhere in the conversation about us and how we fit in and how we are going to move forward and having the responsibility of having a home in DC. We're the ones the homes that we have are the ones that are being taken. So what are we going to do now? Because these things are in policy. So how do we shape these policies that we're talking about? Because right now, we are having this conversation, and we've been having this conversation. So where do we start now? Because the developers, to me, are the ones who are telling the story and leading the conversation. If we're electing, no offense, the council, then where do they fit in making or having our backs, or having these discussions on our behalf, and to make sure that they are talking about us and not themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They don't
Yep.
keep their ear to the ground. And so for me, if I sound frustrated, it's because I am, because I'm seeing the same pattern in this city that we've seen for a long time. Every time we want to move or do something different, we're the ones who get shuffled around. So I'm trying to figure out, how do we stop that? And if we're talking equity, then we have to have some. We have to own some homes or some condominiums. And so those things, when you're talking to a developer, how do we fit in? Because these are our homes that you're taking.
All right. Ms. Brown, thank you for the question and for your honest frustration. I share your frustration. So I'm very much I think a realist, right? So we have all this verbiage around equity in the comprehensive plan. It is in there, but it's not going to save us, right? The other thing that I know realistically is that the job of developers, they don't see themselves as having a goal of equity or of not displacing. And so I don't blame them. That is the job and goal, must be the job and goal of the government. That is what the council and the mayor and her agencies should be doing. One, I want to see stronger negotiations from the agencies. But the difficulty, though, and this is something I want to push back on, what I hear a lot from residents is we don't want development because we don't want displacement. And I worry about that, because the reality is that, excuse me, if we don't build more housing, that doesn't mean we have less people trying to come to the district. So if we have less housing with more people trying to come to the district, that means housing costs more. It means landlords are going to end leases and rents are going to go up even more than they do. So what we have to do is understand, I believe, that yes, there will be increased development, and I think there should be, but the focus of the development has to be increasingly focused on moderate and low income families. I chaired the Regional Council of Governments, and 2 years ago, I led an effort to address the escalating cost of housing, not just in DC, but around the region, by setting goals for the number of units we had to build in order to stabilize housing costs, but insisted that instead of what we see right now is most of the housing is built a luxury and regular people get the scraps, saying that we should be building primarily for people with moderate and lower incomes, and the rest of that should go to people with higher incomes. So the smaller amount of housing that we build should be going to people with smaller incomes. The difficulty, and this is where a lot of the frustration and confusion comes from, what the city does, excuse me, is it uses the essentially the cost of the land. So people say the district gives away land. Well, what the district does is uses the land as a down payment on affordable units, but we're just still not building enough affordable units. So I don't think that the answer is no development. I think the answer is development with the council and the mayor focused on affordability.
So let me clarify this then. I am not saying that there won't be change, and I don't think any of the other residents are saying. What we're saying is it is how you are making these changes. It's not saying that changes, because we all know changes happen. It is how you're making those changes as regards to the people who are already here. To me, it seems is that, okay, the buildings that we're living in or the places we're living in is free, and they're not. They cost. We pay rent.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us are working and we pay taxes. So this isn't free, but the way that I feel that you're explaining this situation as if, okay, we are invisible and we're not contributing and we're not doing our share. Now that's the way I'm interpreting this. And I don't, as I said, the developers, the change, yes, of course we do. It's going to happen. But how do we?
I think your audio went out, Linda, or something happened with the
Well, Ms. Brown, I did hear you loud and clear. And let me apologize if I miscommunicated. So, and this is one of the things, as a council member, I never like when people say you all, because my job is to be your representative and voice, and that is what I honestly try to do every day. And so I do apologize if my answer sounded different than I intended. What I was trying to express is for every project that is brought before the council, what I scrutinize is how much affordability is in that project and how much more I think we can get. A lot of this is a lot of development is not done. Obviously doesn't need the approval of the council, but development on public lands does. And so where I push the city is to say, same thing that Christopher was saying at the beginning, I believe, which is when we're developing public lands, there should be a lot more housing that real people can afford. And that is what I'm working to do every single day. It's not a simple kind of matter. If it was, I promise you I would have solved it already, but I do not see our residents as disposable, as not contributing. In fact, our residents, the ones that many people push aside, are the ones that make DC what it is, that held DC down for a long time, and not only contributed a lot before, but contribute a lot now, and feel discarded and pushed aside. I 100% agree with you. That is the fight that I'm fighting on the council. The only thing I'm trying to express is that it is not an easy answer. So project by project, everything that comes before the council, I scrutinize and I push back. In any hearing you listen to about disposal of public lands, I'm saying something very similar to what you're saying. And I really do my best to be a voice for you and to push back against displacement that has really run rampant in our city.
Thank you very much, Council Member. I'll only add that there is another component to this, which has to do with the example where in Southwest, where IZ was excluded. And we know that IZ really provides that floor for affordability. And so that is an area of concern. Budget Point is also being built up, and it pretends more of the same. So I'll just say that I'd only encourage you, please, to also consider how we zone and the thresholds for affordability. I want to move on to Mr. Adom Cooper.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chris. Can you hear me?
I can. Thank
Okay,
you.
sorry, I'm in the middle of trying to work and I wasn't really listening before, so I apologize if my question's already been answered. Thank you, Councilman White, for joining us. My name is Adom Cooper. I'm a Southwest DC resident in Ward 6. So here's my question. So the data is clear that folks of African descent in DC have been harmed by gentrification development and a lack of protection by the hollow words of the comp plan. What accountability mechanisms are in place to provide remedies and restitution for the harm? How much harm needs to take place before action is taken? And I want to point specifically to the example of, and I think I was listening in and out, but I think you had mentioned before about how you've been pushing for a one-to-one, replacement if, a building is going to be redeveloped, making sure the current residents have a place to go. What is in place when that doesn't happen? Because that's happened numerous times and there is real concern it's going to happen again with Greenleaf. What is in place to stop that from happening? And where is the accountability for that?
Thank you, Adom. So the accountability is with your local elected officials. Excuse me. I can't make any other council member vote one way or another. All I can do is try my best to convince them, make the arguments that I believe needs to be made. But accountability has to be in the election booth. The council has an opportunity often to weigh in on this. And, what I would ask, always pay attention to who's weighing in, who's pushing, how they're voting. I feel very confident that you can pay as much attention to what I'm doing on the council as your time will permit, and that you will see at every turn that I'm fighting for residents who are being displaced. So the accountability is with each individual council member. And I think it's an important level of accountability that I do think is getting stronger. But when it comes down to equity issues, hard equity issues, everybody doesn't show up the way we need them to every time.
Thank you, Council Member. We have a question.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Adom. We have a question from Ian Callender, and I understand, Ian, you want to share your screen?
Yeah, if possible. Hey, Councilmember White, how are you?
Well, good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'll keep it super brief, but I wanted to actually make this more about businesses and the creative economy, and really just some facts or some stats that I think are very stark in not just Southwest, but even Southeast. This is the map south of the freeway that shows all the Black-owned establishments, actually not establishments, all the Black-owned restaurants, I should say. And Southwest, Southwest Soda Pop Shop and then Sacred Grounds, which is a cafe, is the only makeup in Southwest. And then in the Capitol Riverfront neighborhood and Navy Yard neighborhood where Sandlot Southeast is, somewhere is a cafe in Agua 301. In the Southeast Capitol Riverfront Navy Yard neighborhood, there's only 6 Black-owned establishments out of 110 in the Capitol Riverfront Navy Yard neighborhood. When I posed that question to our friends at the bid to get that same stat in Southwest, they were unable to provide me with that total number. But from everybody on this call, we can probably identify what those authentic Black-owned establishments are. And a prime example of what the folks at the Wharf did with the Intercontinental Hotel. Kith Kin is not a Black-owned restaurant, it never was, but there was an executive chef that was Black, and they in perpetuity used that to amplify, hey, although we've created this Wharf, there was no value for any Black-owned restaurant or business. And Bufus, who had King Ribs, which was a Rib Shack at the Wharf. You know, he's been there for years. They did offer him a little kiosk, the kiosk that is now a part of the restaurants that are down there, which that was also another promise that was rescinded for community restaurants. Like Jenny's had a spot or a kiosk, and then so anyway, I'm saying that to say, how can we utilize a lot of the forthcoming development? And you know, my specialty is being able to reclaim vacant spaces and repurpose them to amplify, you know, Black-owned establishments in areas that lack diversity. And I think Chris had mentioned, you know, just the urban renewal component. And I always use this photo in these conversations that shows the freeway being built and what the freeways have done historically, not just in DC, but every major city in America, and how Southwest literally was raised. But in the lower left corner is where Friendship Baptist Church is. And just to draw some familiarity, you know, to that, that's where we created the Blind Wino concept at 700 Delaware Avenue. So when you think about, you know, some of the things that, you know, Black folk, we're amazing, our culture is amazing, but we just don't have a seat at the table. And in some instances, we have to force ourselves to the table. And then even when we do that, we're kind of like in a kiddie chair. So I think that there are some opportunities within council, and McDuffie's doing a great job, and you are as well. I know we've had some conversations about this in the past, but I think that there would be some amazing opportunities to introduce ways that Black-owned businesses, especially from those that are, you know, DC natives, like I was born and raised here, you know, and just to be able to not have a chance to open up something in Southwest where I live. And
Ian, thanks for, sorry to interrupt, but we'll provide the council member an opportunity to respond to that. And council member, if you have any reforms that you were looking at for the business improvement districts, if you could also add that to your response, please.
Thank you. So, Ian, thank you for the question. The issue of the shortage and really depletion of Black-owned businesses, not just in Southwest, but across the city, is something that we have to treat as urgent. I have, on kind of industry-specific basis, drafted legislation to assist, excuse me, minority business owners. The constraint there is the Supreme Court, which has a case that prevents the District of Columbia, most jurisdictions, from giving specific racial preference, even though I believe it is necessary. So we couldn't pass a law, the council couldn't pass a law to say, you know, at the next phase of development at the Wharf, there should be X number of Black businesses, but perhaps we could send a letter to the developer saying, hey, how many Black-owned businesses do you have at the Wharf, and how many do you anticipate having in phase 2? And that is something that may be able to make an impact on the developer, to let them know we are paying attention. So let me think through that idea, Ian. Christopher, I don't have business improvement specific issues. Those generally go to ward council members, you know, whatever bid kind of has their issue. But this is something we have to continue to be creative about. I'm working on a bill now that would give preference for marijuana cultivation centers and dispensaries to formerly incarcerated residents. I passed a similar bill giving preference to minority and women-owned businesses when I first got to the council, and they had announced that the city was going to issue 2 more licenses. What I always try to do, and I tried to do something similar when the city legalized sports betting, very disappointed that I couldn't get enough votes on the council. What I try to do at every turn is to make sure we carve out space for minority-owned businesses and women-owned businesses that historically get pushed to the side while everybody else, continues to get richer and richer. So this is something that I've continued to fight on. And if there's anything specific I can help you on, Ian, please let me know. But let us think through sort of sending a letter, letting the developer know that this is something that the council has interest in. And Christopher, my current meeting was supposed to start at 4:40, and I know they're waiting on me, but I don't want to be rude. How many more questions do you have? I want to make sure.
We have just one more question, and thank you, council member, for the time that you've given
No
us.
problem.
If you have the time, Miss Arlena Cheney is on the line, and she has a
Absolutely.
question. She is
Absolutely.
president of the Tenant Association at the Capitol Park Towers. That's the one that has the Kylie, the new building, right next to the highway. So thank you so much, Ms. Cheney. Please ask.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Okay, my question is, and hello to everybody and the councilman. What is the plan, if any, being developed to help tenants, Black Americans specifically, impacted and basically trapped in poorly maintained Southwest buildings, currently paying higher rents as new residents are moving in, paying lower rents, also given 2 months free rent, which can all be couched under COVID-19, gentrification, and discrimination? This is the question that we tenants would like addressed.
Miss Cheney, can my office follow up with you? Because this is the first I'm hearing about this situation in this building. I'm not sure why Black residents would be paying higher rents than new residents. And I mean, people who are moving in now, rents in Southwest, I believe, have gone down a little bit. So, if someone is in a lease that started years ago, it's possible that someone moving in now is paying a lower rent. And that they are having to induce renters with free rents to get them in the door. So this may be a system of kind of when the lease started and what the terms of your lease are. But if there is something that is untoward that's going on there, let us look into it. So I would appreciate if you would follow up with my office, and I can give you my my staff member's email address, because if there's something going on there that should not be going on, I absolutely will get it addressed.
Absolutely, you may contact me or I can contact you. The other thing I would just like to quickly add, you talked about agencies. It would be fantastic if DCRA over on Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue would do more as far as rent control and that kind of thing. At least keeping their finger on the pulse of what's going on, because I think they've gone to sleep.
I am constantly on DCRA, Miss Cheney. I am now in conversations. Unfortunately, it's not my desire, but I'm in conversations with DCRA multiple times a week about things that need to be going on. Excuse me. There is conversations in the council right now about expanding rent control, but Katie Whitehouse, my staffer who's on here, she and I right now are working on a new idea that would help the city acquire affordable housing at a much quicker pace. Essentially, the way that this bill is constructed, it costs a lot more to build housing than it does to acquire housing that already exists. So what we are trying to do is create a group within that works with the government that acquires apartments across the entire city, puts a covenant on those leases so that they remain affordable for 20 years, I believe is the time period that we're looking at now. I actually think that will get us a lot of affordable units relatively quickly. I also have been pushing the gas on converting older office buildings into affordable and workforce housing. Because a number of these buildings, as you all in Southwest know, because some of the buildings that were industrial or office buildings in Southwest have been converted into residential. This is something I believe we should be doing more of as a government, The conversions that happen over there in Southwest, the Sky Building and the other one, those are luxury, but those happen without the government. I believe that these conversions should happen with the government so that we can keep the focus on affordability.
Thank you, Council Member. I think that that would make incredible gains. I just want to have one last piece. This is not a question, which is that because of urban renewal, we had a lot of buildings go up at the same time. And now many of our buildings have maintenance issues. It's not just Capitol Park Towers. It's also Capitol Park Plaza and Twins. It's also River Park. Again, because they all went up at the same time and they are in need of immense repair. I would only say that the comp plan really doesn't provide a whole lot in terms of addressing how we're going to maintain this incredible housing stock, at least for Southwest going forward. So thank you so much, Council Member, and thank you everyone for submitting your and asking your questions. I think today was really productive. And Council Member, I don't know if you had any last words to close us out.
Well, people in my next meeting may be a little perturbed with me, so I just want to say thank you all very much for your time. Thank you for your questions. These are very difficult issues, but you have to take elected officials to task, ask these difficult questions. I do try to make sure I am representing you, your needs, and your voice on the council, and that's what I will continue to do. So thank you all for taking the time to meet with me and my colleague Katie Whitehouse today.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Katie. All right, get to your next meeting. We're again, send our apologies.
No problem. Thank you all very much.
Okay, thanks. All right, thanks everyone. We have it recorded, so we'll be posting it. Feel free to share with your friends and neighbors in Southwest. It'll be, if you don't already know about the Southwest Voice newsletter, I'm going to put it in the chat because that's where you will find a link to the to today's video. Okay, so get subscribed to that newsletter if you aren't already, and we'll see you all soon. We'll hang out in case anyone has any questions or thoughts. I'll stay for a few minutes. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Rhonda. Thanks. Great questions. Thanks, Ms. Pat.
Have a great one.
You too. And Arlena, I got you to ask your question anyway. Oh, I can't hear you. You're muted. You're muted.
Thanks. Take care.
Okay, take care. Thanks so much. Arlena, were you saying anything? Oh, you're muted. Is there a way you have to unmute your... There you go. Okay.
It's okay?
Yeah, yeah.
I want to follow up with you, and we follow up with them about the question about the rents and stuff. Is that okay?
Yes, of course. Yeah, I think it's a great question. And I think our building probably also, you know, they're throwing everything at these folks to get them in the building. Yeah.
Okay. I teach a course, and I got to get to it. Well, thank you, Chris. It was fabulous.
Thank you. All right, be in touch. Okay, bye-bye. And Daniel Jones, are you hanging? Oh, bye-bye. Daniel, did you have any questions? Are you just hanging out?
I don't know. I just got to get out of it.
Okay, well, thanks. I'm going to end the meeting. Thanks so much.